Did you know that anyone with access to your data could open up your organization to more vulnerabilities? At SideChannel, we merge deep expertise with our innovative software product to ensure that critical data is secure. Vendor lists grow, but your organization's cyber risk level doesn't have to. Learn more about our risk management services at sidechannel.com.
Hi, everyone. This is Gary Berman, host of the Cyber Hero Adventure Show. Today, we have a special micro briefing with Herb Roitblat. Herb is considered by many to be a thought leader in data science as well as artificial intelligence. And I think that's probably a great way to just welcome Herb to the show. Hey, Herb.
Hey, Gary, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So there's so much going on to try to unpack, regarding AI. Let me just begin with your initial assessment, kind of, how's it going?
The world is not ending. The Terminator is not coming. The prospects for the singularity, the prospects for sentient artificial intelligence are practically zero at this point. And people who tell you that we're on the brink of disaster or we're on the brink of revolution, they frankly don't know what they're talking about. So the first thing is be calm, don't panic. Now, that being said, there's lots of good stuff that's happening that may end up being very useful.
Indeed. And there's actually a term for what you were describing, AI doomers, a kind of doomsday, I guess. So is it just the pace of change that it might be unsettling or, scary, to people at this moment, the rapid adoption of ChatGPT from November of last year, just, let's say, 6 months later, maybe 100 million or more sort of users, and then the letter that was written by maybe 1,000 thought leaders somehow that we're supposed to pause this progress. I mean, is it the pace of change, and is sort of to use an analogy, the toothpaste has left the tube kind of a thing?
I don't think so. Every 10 years or so, there's a revolution, and we're on the verge of finally achieving what we've been after. And then people actually get a look at what's going on, and they try to use it and see how they can proceed with it, and then it kind of evaporates. I was talking with a student yesterday, and I said, remember when Watson won on Jeopardy? Everybody said then that everything was going to change from henceforth. What's his name? Ken Jennings said, I for one welcome my computer overlords. What changed? In 2016, Jeff Hinton said, I don't know why we're training, what are they? This is terrible. Radiologists.
We can edit.
I know.
So
I don't know why we're training radiologists anymore. The computer does it better. Well, we're still training radiologists. The computer's still not doing it better in real life. So I think that there are people who say, look, we've made so much progress in this amount of time. I can imagine that if we made the same amount of progress coming up, it would be game changing. It'd be the end of the world. But the problem is the first bunch of progress is really easy. After that, it starts to get hard.
Ooh, explain that further. I mean, that's a very important concept.
It's okay. So it's the Pareto principle that the first 90%, it takes 90% of the time. The last 10% takes the other 90% of the time. The 80-20 rule kind of thing. But it's even worse than that, because every learning thing has somebody had an insight that changes dramatically how we approach a problem. But then once we've got the immediate benefit of that change in insight, now comes the hard work of figuring out incrementally how we get from there to there. So every project, creative project like this, starts off really great and then slows down because the easy stuff gets done, and then what you're left with is the hard stuff. Self-driving cars. Once they figured out how to use neural networks and some other innovations to get self-driving cars to work, it seemed like, oh, self-driving cars are going to be right around the horizon. Well, the easy part was easy, we see now, but it's the last bits of it that make it safe, make it efficient, make it effective. Those are the parts that just take a long time.
That's a fantastic analysis, because it's true, like about self-driving cars, we've been saying that we'd be having them, every 5 years, and then the time goes by, and then God forbid, something happens, an accident, and then we just realize, how incredibly hard it is. And, sort of, let me do something that you're particularly uniquely qualified to talk about, which is the brain itself, the human brain. So if you think for a moment, about driving, you don't even think. And we're taking in billions of pieces of micro data from everything. And our computational, power of our brain is so extraordinary that for the most part, getting in accidents, we're able to do it. So how would you kind of compare the neural network of a human brain versus what we have so far with AI?
Well, it's easy to get distracted by that. The human brain has billions and billions of connections with billions among billions of neurons. And there is some belief that all we really need to do is replicate that complexity and we'll get intelligence because it's a function of the complexity. I don't happen to think that that's true. I think that it takes more than just complexity to make the intelligence. It takes tools that we currently are not working on that we need to in order to be able to get actual intelligence. And the people who are predicting, the people who drafted that letter saying there should be a pause, they're predicting it's going to take away all our jobs. It's going to do everything. And that's just, basically it's nonsense. They're worried about, they make up a story and then let it scare themselves into saying we should do something about it.
Well, I saw a very interesting report in Wired magazine where they did a very short interviews, video interviews with about 20 different real people who had real careers or, in jobs, ranging from, let's say, a doctor to a teacher, a copywriter, physical therapist, and things like that. And they asked them the same question: do you think AI could take away your job? And the results, I'm just paraphrasing here for a moment, but of the 10, about half of them thought that AI could take their job, but not do it as well as they could. And then the other, sort of thought or takeaway was that no, AI, cannot do my particular job. And so I guess there's a bit of a bell curve, about this question. Where do you net out on that?
I think that someday AI could take over just about anything, but I have no idea when someday will be, except that it's not soon. What the AI tools do is they take over tasks. So they used to have in the legal space, they used to hire a lot of people fresh out of law school, make them sit down and read documents and find the few documents that were relevant to something, or review contracts, or just basically do boring work with the documents. Well, people came up with artificial intelligence to read those documents, to find the ones that had interesting things in them, to find out the useful information, to review the contracts. They no longer need those armies of new associates, the fresh out of law school associates. So those jobs changed. They were counting on hiring those people, turning them through this process, which is boring as hell, and then most of them would drop out. They wouldn't have to worry about employing them as lawyers. Well, now they don't have that process to eliminate them. So then they realize that they're training too many lawyers. They don't really need that many lawyers. It did replace some jobs, but it was ordinary, dull work that people were overqualified to do.
This is an interesting insight because I came across some research that some folks had AI take the bar exam. And I don't want to misquote it, but I think it was something like it got like 90% correct, on a bar exam.
Yeah, that's another problematic case, because it wasn't a real bar exam. It was questions from a study guide for previous bar exams. There were questions that were published, that were out there, probably on the web. So the Chat GPT or whatever model they were using as GPT-4, it actually read those exams. It had a chance to cheat. And somebody says, oh, look, it passed the exam. Well, basically what it did is it memorized the answers. And because it passed the exam, it doesn't mean it knows the law. It just means it knows the exam.
Oh, wow. That's incredibly insightful. And it brings me to the book you wrote, Algorithms Are Not Enough. And I think correct me if I don't have this correct, but after reviewing it myself, your basic, premise is that it's not generalized intelligence, right?
That's right. It's not, I don't think that artificial general intelligence is impossible. I just think we're not looking for it in the right place.
Where would the right place be?
Well, that's what my book is all about.
Well, fair enough. Definitely will promote your book. Commercial timeout. How do people get a copy of your book?
MIT Press, Amazon, wherever books are sold.
Okay, perfect. That seems like reasonable thing to do at this moment. So, well,
no, the idea is that you need to have some insights. You need to take some risks. You need to be able to construct the framework for a problem. The computers right now are really good at solving problems for which they're given a framework. They're not at all good. They don't have any idea of how to create such a framework. That's what it's going to take, really, in a nutshell, to get to general intelligence.
Well, as we're wrapping up here, I mean, gosh, I could listen and learn from you for hours and hours, as I'm sure our audience will benefit from what you're doing. Would it be okay if we count on you, from time to time as a thought leader on this?
Sure, Gary.
Yeah, that'd be great. And so maybe to just kind of wrap up, can you just share a little bit more with our audience about what you said at the very beginning, which is to, be calm? How do they do that in the face of this rapid change?
In 1956, people claimed that general intelligence was right around the corner. Within 10 years, a computer would be able to do any task that a man can do. In 1986, neural networks were going to take over everything. They're going to solve every problem that we had because it was a completely different approach. In 2016, 2017, well, now it was deep learning that was going to solve all these problems. In 2021, now it's these large language models that are going to solve every problem. Every one of those comes up with promise. It has some value that it adds to our understanding of artificial intelligence, but it doesn't solve the problem. And people can extrapolate, they can say, oh, look, if we've done this, it can't be much further, except that it is.
Indeed. Well, on behalf of a grateful digital universe, Herb Roitblat, thanks for who you are and what you do and why you do it. And if you allow me, for being a mentor to me and a friend.
It's my pleasure, Gary. It's always fun talking with you.
Thanks again.